Hello, welcome to the Hot Pursuit. Today we are going to talk about very important visit to Turkey this week. It was conducted by the President of the European Court of Human Rights, Mr. Robert Spano. He met the top officials in Turkey, including President Erdoğan, Justice Minister, and others. We are going to discuss the visit, the importance of the visit, with the editor-in-chief of Ahval, Yavuz Baydar. Welcome to the program.
Good to be with you, Ilan.
So why this visit was so important and spark this very big attention in Europe, in the world, and in Turkey especially?
Actually, we are reporting and covering a very controversial visit from many aspects. It has become clear already when it came to our attention, or to the world's attention, that Mr. Spano was about to visit Turkey, Ankara, in the first days of September, first week of September, which is significant because the judicial year is beginning in the 1st of September with a ceremony in Ankara, a traditional ceremony. And it has become controversial because of, two main reasons, let's say. First is, of course, Turkey, member of Council of Europe, also a signature owner of the European Treaty of Human Rights for many decades, is from rule of law point of view, from justice point of view, is utterly problematic country, which many agrees in the past 5 years, especially following the attempted coup, state of emergency, the measures, punitive measures applied, and also the number of political prisoners, which according to Human Rights Watch is nearly 50,000. So this was already making the visit very, very critical. Also, the question was whether or not the chief judge should do that, should conduct that visit. Second point has even cast more shadows over the visit, which was Mr. Spano had accepted to receive an honorary doctorate, which is honoris causa by Latin, by Istanbul University. Istanbul University, one of the oldest universities in Turkey, is tainted clearly because in the purge, in the aftermath of the coup attempt, the university itself, according to various information sources, purged at least 200 of its respected academicians from the university. So this is a case, legal case right now, because those academicians went to the administrative court and demanded their rights back, a case which extended into European Court of Human Rights. So per se, the university itself is a side, is a defendant in a case that many tens of academicians complain about. So these two dimensions are very important, but Spano apparently didn't listen to the advices of his peers or the people from various parts of European politicians, and visited Turkey, escorted by the Turkish judge appointed by President Erdoğan, Ms. Saadet Yüksel. So this is where we are in terms of the controversy. But then the things developed in more controversial circumstances. The visit in Ankara was sort of, on multi-levels. Parliament Speaker Mustafa Şentop, and also a visit to Constitutional Court, and a visit also to Court of Cassation, but the more importantly, Presidential Palace. The presidential palace meeting between the Chief Judge Spano and Erdoğan lasted 45 minutes, closed doors. So we don't know what was being spoken about. But going back to, again, what Spano had said, that he would deliver very important messages in Ankara. Those messages were delivered partly in Justice Academy, but it was basically, in its core, the speech was a blip, because it was basically on issues that is 101 of law.
Yes.
He emphasized the independence of judiciary. He emphasized how important that the political executive should not interfere with the judiciary, etc., etc. Things that everyone knows by heart in today's Turkey, especially those who fight for human rights, lawyers and human rights organizations such as Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, or Turkish İnsan Hakları Derneği, IHD, etc. And also particularly Kurdish politicians of the HDP, whose former chairman, Selahattin Demirtas, has been jailed under extremely controversial circumstances for nearly 4 years. Not to mention Osman Kavala, a philanthropist, a civil society promoter, nearly 3 years, and Ahmet Altan. Those are symbolic figures of these 50,000 political prisoners. Author, whose books have been translated into 23 or 24 languages. The only novelist of that caliber kept in jail for nearly 4 years. His 4 years will be completed at the end of September. So this is the circumstances, and those messages were, of course, mostly, apparently, went to deaf ears. And then we go back to the visit in Istanbul University. But we will go into this more. Maybe you have a question to ask me.
Yeah, yes, I was going to ask about the arguments that those who have made for the visit. It is that, this is customary visit routine. So since Turkey is member of the court, this should not make a big deal. And the second is, perhaps the Chief Justice made his very important points and criticism in those meetings behind the door, whether with the President Erdoğan or other top officials.
Yes, those arguments are there. And this is a routine visit. That's true, as emphasized by Chief Judge Spano himself. That routine visit could have been done in a different way, critics say, in a very symbolic way. Very short visit to palace. If necessary, not a visit at all to the palace. And then meetings with the top judges in Turkey, the top court chairman, Mr. Zühtü Arslan, and also the Court of Cassation chief, or people like this. That those could be justified in this routine visit. But regarding the framework of this visit, the messages conveyed or expected to be conveyed by Mr. Spano are messages that are seen as passé. Those messages have been conveyed to Turkish political executive, to Mr. Erdoğan himself, by many politicians, many people of high caliber, elderly politicians or VIP people from Europe, telling him, go back to rule of law, respect justice, respect an independent judiciary, rather. And those have been conveyed, are being conveyed for months and months and months. It's been 2016, July, the botched coup took place. For 4 years, the political executive did not listen to these advices at all, mentioning Merkel, for example, who personally tried to interfere in the name of justice and in the name of rule of law, to deaf ears of Mr. Erdoğan. So what is new here, people ask, Nothing is new. Again, the same deaf ears of the top figures of the regime, who not only listen to those advices, but go even further. Let's mention, for example, the case of leftist deputy Barış Atay. Days before Mr. Spano's visit, this deputy, young deputy, had criticized the Minister of Interior, Süleyman Soylu, for his protection of alleged rapist, and also his instrumentalization of the judiciary for the release of this rapist, alleged rapist. And then Süleyman Soylu, in return, threatened Mr. Barış Atay. And at the same evening, Barış Atay was severely beaten by a mob in Istanbul's rather crowded district, Kadıköy. So this is one case. The second case is, of course, the ongoing hunger strikes by some lawyers. And one of them had died just again shortly before Spano landed in Turkish airports, Ebru Timtik, and the other hunger strikes are still ongoing. And also to mention that 2nd of September, Devlet Bahçeli, political partner de facto partner of Mr. Erdoğan, came out with a statement saying that we have to bring the death sentence, capital punishment back. And this was a call to parliament, which is controlled by the AKP, MHP majority. This was echoed even before Mr. Spano came to Turkey by Mustafa Şentop, parliamentary speaker himself, who said, yes, we need to bring this capital punishment back to the legislation. And then during the visit now, let me end there, he's still in Turkey as we speak, Mr. Spano. And today, one of the top figures of parliamentary group of the AKP said, we are now working on a draft motion for bringing back capital punishment. So it all looks like sort of a farce, if you will, from objective point of view. Nobody pays any attention to what Mr. Spano says. Nobody takes him seriously. He may believe so, but this is a bitter farce that we are facing again. The lawyers that I talked to, we interviewed in Ahval, are very, very frustrated, let's say, to use a watered down term about the whole thing.
So you mentioned that Speaker Mustafa Şentop, who met with Spano and said that how much he values about the court and the partnership or the relationship with the court. Day after he said that Turkey should bring back the death penalty. It's a big irony there. Another point I wanted to ask and get your take on that. Chief Justice did not meet with any of the opposition party or the lawyers or even the NGOs. And Veysel Ok, who spoke to you a couple of days ago on podcast in Turkish, said that this is kind of casts a shadow over the court's impartiality. Why do you think the Chief Justice did not meet anyone, any opposition, any critical group, any NGOs, any human rights groups that have been operating or trying to work in Turkey under very difficult circumstances?
This is a very good question. A question that needed to be asked, still needs to be asked to Chief Judge Spano himself. But not only did he not meet major figures of these ongoing human rights struggle in Turkey, like Ms. Eren Keskin or Ms. Şebnem Korun Fincancı, or the leaders of Human Rights Association, IHD, or the underdogs of Turkish politics, HDP, pro-Kurdish HDP party leaders, Mithat Sancar, for example, the chairman, who in an open letter pleaded with Spano not to accept this honorary doctorate from Istanbul University. Mithat Sancar, being a constitutional law expert himself, knows the law, knows the constitution, knows what it's all about. But again, this question needed to be asked to Chief Judge, but he refused so far. He may change his mind again. Let's have a bracket there. But he refused to meet an independent part of the Turkish media. He's apparently not interested in being challenged in these critical questions. He could have met one of those minor critical media outlets that still exist in Turkey. And this would, if anything, give a clear message to Ankara and the power holders there by giving the very interview to an alternative media outlet, whichever it is, one of our competitors, and it would be a clear message. But so far, nothing. Not only that, Ilhan, according to me, one of the most bizarre dimensions of the ceremony in Istanbul University yesterday, 4th of September, was that the ceremony, normally such doctorate ceremonies everywhere in the world includes students' presence, because the doctorate holder, be it honorary or not, addresses the students, the crowd. They should be there. Doctorate students or undergraduates, whatnot. But they should be there. None of them were there. Only a select number of academicians, nearly an empty hall. But there were some colleagues, some press representatives, some reporters there. And Judge himself, Spano himself, asked specifically before the ceremony began to get all the representatives of the press out of the hall. He said clearly he didn't want them. Why, somebody asked. He said he cited corona epidemic. And actually, what we know is that university had prepared select number of seats with social distance for press. It was prepared, but he refused parts of the crowd, which is the press, citing COVID. And he accepted to address the academicians not citing COVID epidemic, which is very, very bizarre behavior from his side. And these questions should be asked to him, but he keeps a sort of a silence that is only witnessed in regimes that are closed regimes. Bureaucrats of those closed regimes act like he does. And this is casting, that's why, a very dark shadow over this controversial visit.
Well, we are going to continue following the visit and whether he will change his mind.
Let me add also, we should not have forgotten there are growing number of criticisms outside within European Union. One of the most important judicial figures in Europe, former chief judge of the International Criminal Court on Yugoslavia, UN court chief, Christoph Flügge, did give an interview today, on 5th of September, in Süddeutsche Zeitung, extended interview in which this 73-year-old chief judge lashes out at Spano as tainting the European Court of Human Rights, which he sees as a federal court that should be very keen on its principles. He said although it's a routine visit, he should have been much more careful than this, and also he should never ever accept this honorary doctorate. Spano had claimed that it was an obligatory for the judges to accept the honorary doctorates. But this is a very, very strict interpretation of the bylaws of the European Court of Human Rights. Turkey is a specific case, like Azerbaijan or Russia, champion of human rights abuses. And of course, Flügge means in this interesting interview that Spano had all the reasons to refuse this honorary doctorate ceremony or acceptance of such.
So far, I've been following the pro-government media in Turkey, and they really not bothered by the chief judge visit in Turkey, which in the past, any human rights representative from Europe or Turkey reporter from European Council and all that, when they came and visit Turkey and had meetings with different parts of country and segments, they would have come under the heavy criticism by the pro-government media. But so far, it looks like the Judge Spano had a very good coverage in the pro-government media. We'll see how this is going to turn out and how the cases are waiting at the court, which came from Turkey. They say about 60,000 different cases, human rights violation cases. We will see how they're going to turn out by this judge and the court.
Certainly, the controversial etiquette over this, stamp over this visit will continue. Let me end with, again, my conversation with the two very important dynamic lawyers of human rights lawyers that we did for Ahval, Veysel Ok, the Kurdish lawyer, and Çiğdem Koç, who also follows similar cases of both Kurdish and alleged FETÖ Gülenist people in various political cases, and their conclusion is unified. They say we have been fighting for across the board for basic human rights and freedoms in this country, and for the past 2, 3, 4 years, especially after the state of emergency declaration announcement, we were saying that the Turkish rule of law is null and void regarding basic rights and freedoms. With this visit, they say, Spano basically legitimizes such a regime and undermines what our efforts were all about.
Okay, on that sad note, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for listening or watching us on Ahval podcast series, and see you the next time.